Hey everybody, welcome back to RPG Imaginings. I'm going shaky cam here because I thought it might be fun for us to do a shelfie video. It's been a really long time since I did a shelfie. And boy, has my role-playing collection grown tremendously since I last did a shelfie. So I figured it was appropriate at this time to do a shelfie. I'm starting down here in my recreation space where I film videos because I have some shelving down here. This is the section of my home where my shelves are, shall we say, least manicured. And so you're going to see some weirdly disorganized shelves here. I still plan to move some of the role-playing games that you will see on various shelves here into different locations. So, for example, I think that Pendragon probably definitely needs to be moved up to my main shelves upstairs. But there's just a wide variety of role-playing games, and then you'll see that there's some Battletech stuff over there on the left as well. So yeah, I just wanted you to be able to check out what my shelves look like. The shelf down below is kind of a mess. And we have a whole bunch of Torg supplements, and then my buddy scored a original beat-up copy of Gamma World for me there. But these are all mostly Torg supplements down here. I bought a collection, and we also have ASL down here. Advanced Squad Leader and Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective. I'm a big fan of that game and have collected a couple copies of that. I'm going to go ahead and pause the video right now and switch to a new shelf, and so we will continue our shelfiness here. So this shelf is the starter set shelf. It's not all starter sets, okay? So you can see that some of these are starter sets and some of them are like campaign boxes. The Pathfinder pawns obviously are not a starter set, but I just took all sort of like the big box stuff that I had and put it on a shelf. And this also happens to be one of my display shelves for a variety of nerdery. And so you can see that I have my Porkins action figure down here, which everyone should have. Everybody should have a Jack Porkins, in my opinion. And then we'll continue up. It might Chewbacca Build-A-Bear. Hi, Chewbacca. Various other things. Oh, and then this is a card that I use when necessary for a prop for Call of Cthulhu. And we'll just continue to check out some of the other things. My Spectral Crew badge, for those of you who have seen the viral Modern Scenario by Alex Guyette and Bud of Bud's RPG Review. And then, just a variety of different stuff. Doctor Strange and, of course, Jean-Luc Picard. Because, obviously. Okay, and then this is my shiny metallic Call of Cthulhu original 2nd edition box set print and, variety of different wall displays. Okay, we're going to pause again and go to the last downstairs shelf. And of course, I naturally pressed a button on the phone when I didn't want to. And so I'll have to stitch this video together with another video. And so we have 5e stuff. I have a couple more 5e books that I'll probably bring down here. Yes, my 5e books are relegated to the basement shelves, which are my not usual shelves that I work off of, but you can see that I have some 3rd edition stuff down here as well as the swords. What is the manufacturer again? Oh yeah, the Sword and Sorcery people who did a bunch of supplements for Ravenloft. I have their version of the Ravenloft campaign down here. And then my Broadway program from Rock of Ages, and a whole bunch of, what are these, Star Wars Insider, or Star Wars Gamer magazine. This magazine only ran for like 2 years, and then they pulled it. That was one of the first magazines that I had a real actual subscription to. And then we have Saga Edition Star Wars. Many of these books are signed by the author because I was involved with Star Wars miniatures for many years and did a series for them called S3 Star Wars Strategy Showcase for the Star Wars miniatures game. And then D20 Star Wars and a couple of Fables books, the Encyclopedia. Yeah, and then just some miscellaneous books up on this shelf. These are lawn dice that I gave away to my players at one of our recent mini cons that we did. Yeah, I highly recommend The Great Influenza by John M. Barry if you're interested in seeing how we basically just repeated all the mistakes of the past, except for our medicine was better this time around. So I'm going to go ahead and pause it, and I will meet you upstairs. Okay, so we are in a poorly lit bedroom at this stage, and as we all do, I just recently bought a new bookshelf because my shelf space situation was kind of out of control. And, it's always fun to organize role playing games. So, here at the top of this is the newest bookshelf. I have all of the Miskatonic Repository scenarios that I've printed. I haven't printed all of the scenarios that I've purchased, but that's the printed versions of all of them. And then you can see the boxed Call of Cthulhu products that I have. And continuing down the shelf, yeah, I buy cheap shelves, okay? And so the problem with this particular shelf is that the even slightly larger than paperbacks doesn't fit on the top one, while still having enough room to do standard 8.5 by 11 on the bottom two shelves. So this shelf here right now is just miscellaneous stuff, Conan stuff, the World Mythology book, I've really gotten into L.A. Meyer's Bloody Jack series, which if you're interested in piracy and a mindless read, but still kind of cool, I highly recommend it. And then here's my RuneQuest shelf. So there's still quite a lot of stuff that I have to review for Chaosium for RuneQuest. And then I have RuneQuest books in various scenarios that I printed off over here. This green one is Book of Hortling Mythology, I believe. Yep. Okay, there's so much you can learn and read about the world of Glorantha. This shelf down here is my 2E shelf, and so the big stack here in the middle, that is all Ravenloft scenarios that I have printed off, or Ravenloft books, like a lot of the Van Richten's Guides books I have printed off in there. And I have the original red box of Ravenloft. And then Miscellaneous Dark Sun Rules Cyclopedia over here on the left. And I've really started collecting Planescape stuff. And you can see that I have some 5e books over here, including the collector's edition of Strixhaven and Candlekeep Mysteries. If there's one collector's edition of 5e that I don't have that I would like, it would probably be Wild Beyond the Witchlight. So yeah, I'm really enjoying collecting Planescape stuff through POD. And so that's what is mostly going on with this shelf. Now we're going to shift a little bit to the right. This is an antique bookcase that my wife and I inherited. It has 3 shelves, but only one of the shelves is large enough to fit standard size books. So this is basically the Traveler shelf with the addition of some other sci-fi like role-playing games. So Alien RPG as well as an Alien Technical Manual is there. I temporarily have the Dune RPG, and I did just pick up Sand and Dust. I'll show you that when I get to my reading list here in a second. This is currently the Traveler shelf, and I've backed quite a few of the recent Traveler Kickstarters. I backed Deep Night Revelation, I backed Mercenary, and you get a lot of really cool stuff when you back Mongoose Traveler Kickstarters. You pay a decent price. You'll pay like $100, but you'll get the equivalent of like 7 or 8 books by doing that. So definitely savings over retail. So that is the Traveler shelf. And I'm going to pause and take you over to the next shelf. So, as I said, I am in a poorly lit bedroom. This shelf on top of a shelf contains a lot of miscellaneous stuff that doesn't quite belong anywhere right now per se, but that it's in my reading rotation, and so I have it up here. So obviously Call of Cthulhu Classic Edition 40th Anniversary set over here on the right, and then one of my 2 Torg box sets, One Ring stuff, Beyond the Wall and Other Adventures, which I just picked up. This is brand spanking new, and you'll see that it's still in the shrink wrap. The Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective people came out with Bureau of Investigations, investigations in Arkham and elsewhere. And so if you like solo, like 1 to 4 player deduction games, they just came out with a Lovecraftian style. New annotated H.P. Lovecraft Volume 1, Starship Warden, Expanse, Cyberpunk. I'm not going to read titles for you, but that's the top shelf. And then as we move down, these are all of my like A4 or A5 size role-playing games that don't really, unfortunately, fit. They're like all like an inch too tall for this shelf. And if I want the bottom shelves to be 8.5 by 11, couldn't you just buy a slightly bigger bookcase? Yeah, but I didn't. Okay, so sorry. But you can see that there's a lot of cool stuff in here. So most of my Powered by the Apocalypse stuff is in here. So Monster of the Week, Blades in the Dark, Apocalypse World, The Warren. And then there's a smattering of a lot of other cool things. So things that I'll have on the channel here eventually is that Tiny Taverns will be on the channel. I just picked up 5 Parsecs from Home, which is a miniatures game designed to be played by one person and on a budget. 1,000-Year-Old Vampire, Midlands, Liminal, Desanction is in here. Matrons of Mystery is in here. I think that's right there. Fabled Lands is sort of like a solo fantasy role-playing game, or choose-your-own-adventure style more. And now, this next shelf is what I like to call Cthulhu adjacent. And maybe adjacent isn't the right word. These are all games that go really well with Call of Cthulhu. And so Aqualair, Knights, Black Agents, Dracula campaign, all my Apocalypse stuff is here. All of my cult stuff is here. Dark Streets, Nephilim, Casting the Ruins, Haunted West. All my Vaesen stuff is on this shelf. I did back the most recent Vaesen Kickstarter, so hopefully that'll ship in a month or 2, and I'll be adding to my Vaesen collection. And then everything from this point on is mostly Trail of Cthulhu. Okay, which, for scenario purposes, Trail of Cthulhu is effectively Call of Cthulhu. I don't really use gumshoe mechanics at all, though, and so I use it mostly for inspiration. And then over here are the few examples of the Laundry RPG supplements that I've been able to pick up. So the Laundry was a Cubicle 7 game that was a thing and no longer is, and is no longer being published, and so it can be really, really difficult to obtain copies of that. I don't even have the core rulebook for the Laundry because it's so difficult to find. And then this bottom shelf is Wedge Star Wars on the left. Several of these books are signed by authors, because Wedge Star Wars is one of the first role-playing games that I got into. And then all of my Warhammer Fantasy role-playing supplements from Cubicle 7 are here. I haven't really collected any older Warhammer Fantasy role-playing supplements, but what you see here is what I have, other than what's on the reading stack. I have stuff on the reading stack as well. We'll get to that in a second. So I'm going to pause, and then I'm going to go to the shelf, the bookshelf. All right, here we go. So here we are at the bookshelf, by far the largest collection of any role-playing material that I have. This is my Call of Cthulhu shelving, and it is alphabetical, and so this top shelf contains numbers through part of the letter D, And then I also have Call of Cthulhu books that I have purchased on PDF and then printed, A through H, in that little magazine thing over there. These are all issues of Miskatonic High. Whoop, they're going to go all over the place. Okay. So these are all issues of Miskatonic High, which I've been backing Miskatonic High since it became a thing. Okay. And then, this is going to be kind of weird because this shelf is like 2 feet away from the edge of the bed, so I just can't get a good angle on the bottom shelves for y'all, but I think you can still see what's going on. Maybe I should do a close sweep of everything that's on this shelf for anybody who really wants to get in there and see the Call of Cthulhu collection. I've been working on this for, oh gosh, 5 years now. Okay, it's been the top game that I've purchased since I've been having my TTRPG midlife crisis. Shout out to Orcus Dorcas. Okay. Then I have printouts of books just from M. Honestly, that's only two supplements. That is, I've printed out copies of the Masks of Nyarlathotep Companion because, you can't find hard copies of it anymore without paying a huge price for it. And then I bought a copy of Malleus Monstrarum First Edition PDF and printed that out because, once again, Malleus Monstrarum First Edition was pretty difficult to come by. It's probably cheaper now that Chaosium has reprinted it. Ugh. But, Okay. And then bottom shelf. This is roughly P through Z. And the printed copies down here are books N through Z. So yeah, and I'm going to pause it and I'm going to come back with what is on my nightstand. And it's probably going to seem pretty ridiculous to you, but don't care. And here is what I'm reading right now. Loving Watership Down. I'm a pretty good way through it. Highly recommend it, especially if you, like me, are an ecologist and a nature lover. It's a really fun narrative. And so I've picked up a lot of Traveler supplements recently, including some older Traveler stuff that I'm going to feature on the channel. And so this is the early Mongoose Alien Module number 2 Vargr, and I have Zodani coming in as well. I don't like Aliens of Charted Space Volume 1. I looked at the table of contents, I flipped through to the game store, and I'm just not feeling it. And so instead, I've elected to get some older supplements to learn more about the quote-unquote species in Traveler. Finally read Batman the Killing Joke. Amazing. These are printed supplements. I don't remember quite what they are, but then we have Faces of Sigil for Planescape, which I just got PDF. And Horned Rat was just released, as was Sand and Dust. So I'm reading the Horned Rat Companion and the Horned Rat. Corsairs of Cthulhu was recently released. I finally picked up Cult, Taraticum, and Other Tales, and I'm very excited about the GM guide and the other scenario guide that's coming out soon. I think it's already been released to backers, but we're just waiting to get stock at the US warehouses. And then Mercenary Book 1. I think I'm mostly finished with this. I got to get started on Book 2. And then I also recently picked up Aaron Alston's Strike Force, and I'm really enjoying it as a piece of campaign reading to think about how to GM and things of consideration for GMs. And then Sand and Dust just released too, and that was a surprise for me because I had been waiting for Sand and Dust. This is the guide to Arrakis for the Dune RPG. I had been waiting for it to release and waiting and waiting and waiting, and I just popped into the FLGS one day and saw it there on the shelf, and I'm like, oh, it's out already. Cool, sold. So yeah, that's what I'm reading right now. That's the craziness that's on the nightstand right now. So yeah, I hope y'all enjoyed my shelfies, many shelfies that I have of the role-playing game collection. And, post down in the comments what your favorite stuff is, or if you have any questions about anything that's on the shelf, and I'd be happy to answer those questions for you as well. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a great day.